What's up, guys? Back again today. Gonna do a little bit more to the Bronco. The block is painted, transmission's painted, LS7 style lifters are in, new lifter trays, new cam sprocket, new crank sprocket, timing chain, just the works. So head studs are in. Today I'm gonna focus on the heads. We need to grind the valves, get all the nastiness off of them because this is a 200,000 mile motor. So we're gonna polish the valves and then we need to lap the valves before I paint the heads and put them back on. So we gave the heads a bath, kind of got all the oil and junk kind of off of them, and now we are gonna finish them up so we can get them on to the block, and then the intake should hopefully be in today. So maybe you guys will get to see that, maybe not, I'm not sure. The Bronco's not in the shop anymore. It's actually off the frame machine, getting straightened out like I showed you guys in the last video. So stay tuned and you'll see some of the cool stuff we're doing it and some of the body work, building patch panels, stuff like that. But that'll be to come. So let's start on these heads. All right, so this is all you guys are pretty much gonna need. You're gonna need either your existing valve seals or we're putting new ones on just since we're already this far. A little bit of sandpaper. I'm going with 180 grit because our valve grinding compound starts off even, I would say, a little bit, yeah, so the stuff gets finer as you grind and it starts at 120, so really kind of overkill. I just felt like 80 grit, a little bit coarse for your valve seats. You need, of course, your valves. These aren't all of them. Your head. Here's the tool I bought off Amazon. It's just a valve lapping attachment. And it has suction cups, so when we put them on, we'll suction them to the bottom side of the valve, and I'll show you that a little bit. Some brake cleaner and some type of drill. I'm going to be using a drill press for the first part just so it's easier for me, but you can do all of this with just a handheld drill. And a little chunk of rubber that fits over your valve, or tape also works, so either one. Okay, so here's my drill press. I set myself a clean area here. I have all my valves, my chunk of rubber, and then my sandpaper, which I cut down to just be a little easier to handle. And here I got some WD-40. So I'll show you what we're working with. Hopefully you can see it, but right on the seat of that valve, just really nasty, pitted, covered in crap. So what we're trying to do is get that down, that edge there, to a smooth surface. And then when we lap the valves to the head, it puts a good mating surface for it to seal really good to the head. So I'm gonna turn on my drill press and I'm gonna turn it up just so the valve spins faster and kind of hopefully get a little bit more of a uniform surface on the edge of that valve. And then you'll take your piece of rubber, just slide it over the end, and that way your chuck doesn't harm your valve. When we go over it, you don't want to go over the shaft with your sandpaper. Just there. You can try to clean up some of this carbon, but your valve seals seal on that, and if you dig into that, there's a chance that you could have oil bleed over, and that is something that you do not want. I'm not going too tight with the chuck, just enough to hold it in there snug, but it's some pretty thick rubber, so you shouldn't have any problems of it getting into your valve. Just get a little check, it's nice and secure. I like to use WD-40 just kind of like wet sanding. Just helps keep some of the stuff out of the sandpaper. Sandpaper lasts a little longer and just goes a little faster, so give it a little spray, turn it on, and now I'm just turning up my drill press so it goes faster. It's at about almost 2,000 RPMs right now. A little WD-40 on my sandpaper, and then you just go over your edge of your valve.
kind of walk the sandpaper around so you can see it's taking off material and those spots get clogged up, which the WD-40 will help mitigate that. Just kind of walk your sandpaper around, use different parts of your sandpaper. Smooth up that valve seat. You can see that stuff disappearing. So once we get it pretty close, shut our drill press off, take a look at it. So there is still a light pitting around there, all the way around, but it's already looking a lot better. So I'm just gonna go a little bit more, and then this one is gonna be ready to be lapped. Okay. WD-40 also helps to not heat up your valve too much. I know they get hot, but I'm trying to save my fingers. All right, let me grab a rag and I'll show you guys what we're dealing with now. There we go. Look at that. Nice and smooth, clean metal. That's what you want to see. So a little side by side here. One that's not done and one that's done. You can see a huge difference. And now you did change that valve, so this is why you have to lap these valves afterwards, because you still need that smooth mating surface between your valve and your head. This one not done, this one being done, and you can see a huge difference. So I'm not going to show you guys me doing all of these. Probably switch you over to the lapping, but it's a repeatable for all of these, and you don't need a drill press. You can do this with a handheld drill and probably a partner to hold it, or a way to clamp your drill into something, so that way you can kind of use two hands. So I'm just going to go through, finish all these up, and then I'll take you guys over to lapping them. Lapping tool, lapping compound, our valves, and our valve seals are in, so we're just gonna lube up our shaft of our valves. Grab a Sharpie. So since we are going to paint this head, I want to make sure that the valve that I lap to its valve seat match, because I don't want to mix them up after we pull them out for paint and have it one that we didn't mate with what it's in. So get all the oil off so it sticks. So I'm pretty much just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm just going to make a little mark on the inside of this combustion chamber. 1 and 8. So I know 1 through 8. And then on the other one, I'll do 9 forward. So now that you've chosen, got them all set out, just go one at a time. Make sure your suction cup is the right size for the valves. Everything's clean. You start spinning and you'll hear the difference. So this one, there's a fine line going around so you can see where it's working, but it's not completely mated up yet. And you can see on this where it was starting to grind with the head, but it's beveled out in the center. So we just want to keep grinding and mating it together until this and inside of your head are both flat and mated together. So that's what you need to do to lap these, and we'll do all of them and the other side, and then we'll move on to painting it and then putting the valve springs, retainers, all that stuff in. We'll get to that in a little bit. So I ditched the tool. I was having a hard time with it, but I used the suction cups. It was probably the right answer for the tool, because I know when you regularly lap valves, you're supposed to go quarter turn, move it a little bit, quarter turn, and if you hold on to that, that's what it does. But I'm just finding a faster way to just spin it and spin it and spin it till it's grinded, so you can see where it's grinded pretty consistently all around the valve and the valve seat. So I'm going to do that for all of them, and then I'm going to tip it up, plug these holes, and just check it with some water and make sure that none of the valves are leaking, and if they are, then just keep lapping it until it is completely sealed. Okay, the head is painted, the valves are lapped, all the valve seals are in. Now, these are new for the turbo, some pack 1218 springs, using the same spring compressor I had before. Drop them in, top of the spring, and then my two little baby spring retainers. These are a lot stronger, a little bit longer springs than what come in stock. So make sure they're lined up with your valves, make sure your valves are all the way pushed forward. So a little bit of watered up rag or something to hold your valves to the top of the head. Start screwing this down. Just drop in your little spring retainers like before, and then that's all it is. Okay, getting late. Heads are painted. Pack 12 springs are all in. Was kind of a pain in the butt to get them in, the retainers, but they are all now seated. All the valves that I numbered before in order. All right, so here's a little reveal. Springs are in, retainers are in, heads are torqued with our head studs, got my new spark plugs in, got the intake on, all the injectors fit nice, the fuel rails, I'm gonna put out a video about the unboxing of this, but the fuel rails were not the right color, but we were planning on repowder coating them anyway. But all together, I'd say it's coming together pretty well. I just have to get my turbo oil return line put into the timing cover, then that'll go back on. I have new valve covers, but I'm waiting on push rods before I can put those on. I'm gonna put a new oil pressure sender in it, and then still looking at what type of turbo manifolds I want to use. But there is kind of a valve job you can do with not too many tools. Just take your time with it, make sure you're listening to it, really let it get down to a fine grit, make sure that all your like imperfections, stuff like that, are out of the head side and your valve, and then make sure they go back into the right valve that they were lapped to. So that's all I got for you guys. I'll probably put out a video next week and kind of show a little bit more in depth on that intake. I know some guys don't like to run those fabricated intakes, but so far I was pretty impressed with that one, and we'll see how it works once we get this thing started. Bye guys.